When I went to school and told people I was autistic, they did not believe me. Nothing came from it. No adjustments were made. No help was offered. Growing up, I was like, I feel like an alien. I feel like I'm visiting here. And then being trans, I feel like I need to overcompensate. On both sides, we're having to mask. I had to figure out, am I going to choose acting or choose my gender? I'm scared of the world that I've protected myself from my entire life.
We've had such a great response to the podcast, and so many of you have been in touch asking what you can do to help. It's really simple. Just follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That way we can reach more people, and that way we can celebrate these great minds that think differently. At just 16 years old, Tylan Grant made television history as the first Black actor to portray an autistic character on mainstream TV. His compelling performance earned him accolades such as Best Newcomer, Best Young Actor, and Celebrity of the Year. Tylan's character in Hollyoaks mirrors many aspects of his own life, including his journey with gender identity and neurodivergence. I can't wait to share this one with you. Tylan is an amazing role model for living authentically and fearlessly. Let's get into it. Let's see how great minds think differently. I sort of feel to start this by reading something to you. And it's something that you said. What you said really touched me. I wanted to read it back to you and hear what you think about it now. To my trans family, euphoria and liberation is our birthright. Please never give up on it. Our happiness is worth it.
Yeah, I remember saying that, writing that after I had my top surgery last year. And that was something that was really on my heart.
Why did you write that?
I think because I had fought so hard to get to where I was, and I was privileged in so many ways to be able to access the help that I needed, even if I had to fight for that. And having kind of had that literal weight off my chest, I was like, oh, wow, I feel free. So many people are asking me, oh, does it feel weird? Do you feel different? I'm like, no, I felt weird and different then, and I feel myself now, and I just want everyone to feel like that. And I think everyone should feel like that. And so my trans brothers and sisters, all my trans people should feel like that too. They should be able to feel comfortable in their body and be able to actualize who they are and have that be reflective when they look at themselves. And yeah, it's not something that is a ask or should be a fight. It should be a birthright. I think everyone has the right to feel comfortable in themselves and feel confident in themselves. And so that was something I just felt was really a strong message after I had my surgery. That was really on my heart.
And what feedback did you get from putting that out there?
A lot of love. I also got a lot of hate, but the people closest to me, I had so much love.
You got a lot of hate?
I did. I mean, I think it really depends where you look. And I was so happy that it doesn't faze me. It was a bit harsh at that point because I had just come out of surgery and I was in bed, but it was just a lot of back and forth discourse about my body. And so that felt a lot. But overall, the response was overwhelmingly positive, and I had so many lovely messages. When I put things that are personal to me out there, it's in hope that someone who is going through something similar can see it and be like, wow, I resonate, or I haven't thought about this, or didn't think that anyone else did. That being said, I do believe that it's not up to trans people to be the spokesperson for a whole community. And I don't see myself as that by any means, but I definitely feel like if I can help just one person, then that's enough for me.
And do you see the same with being autistic?
Yeah, definitely. I was diagnosed when I was 6. When I went to school and told people I was autistic, or my parents told the teachers, showed them the information, they did not believe me. And nothing came from it. No adjustments were made. No help was offered. Nothing happened from that. I think me being autistic has shaped a lot of my life experiences and the way people speak to me, or the way I internalize or respond or understand things. And so I feel like I've had to go through a lot of trial and error to be able to get where I am now.
It's confusing, isn't it, sometimes? And it's complex. You know, I've only got my diagnosis less than 2 years ago. I'm 41 now, so I'm like 39, getting, you know, suddenly kind of learning how my brain works.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, everything falling into place, everything feeling like it all makes sense. And then on the other hand, just going, okay, so what does that mean now?
That's a constant thing.
Yeah.
That hasn't stopped for me.
Okay.
I had to like
Good
teach
to know.
myself. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's only the beginning.
Okay.
But also it's not only the beginning, because you actually in a way go back to all of your past experiences. And I'm guessing you've kind of been like, wait a second, that makes sense now.
What's it like being autistic in your 20s in 2024?
I feel like it's different. It's definitely different to how I grew up. I now feel like I have more of a community. I definitely know a lot more neurodivergent people, and I think it's more of a conversation now, whereas I had to really explain myself to people constantly growing up. And I think a lot of people, to an extent, are aware of what autism is. I do feel like I've been in spaces now where being autistic is celebrated, and I don't know if that's a thing now or if it's just taken me more time.
Give me an example of one of those.
I made a friend recently.
I love that phrase. I made a friend recently.
Yeah.
I love that.
Feels good. It
Yeah,
feels
I
good.
love that. Sorry, just to interrupt you.
I did make a friend recently.
Yeah, I love that phrase.
I was at the cinema watching my favorite film, and he was sat next to me and my sibling, and we ended up talking. And there's something that I like to call, well, I guess in some ways a sixth sense, when you just know someone's autistic. And we just saw each other. And there were moments where I was like, wow, it's so easy speaking to another autistic person. It's just different. I just feel so liberated in that. Like, we can literally be having 2 different conversations at the same time. And there's never a point where, you know, sometimes I'll be speaking to someone and we're talking and they're like, that was random. And I'm like, I thought conversations are meant to, like, you know, you switch topics all the time. And it's great not to feel weird. It's great to feel celebrated in that. And also just in the things that I'm interested in, meeting other people that love film. And I feel like I've met a lot of people that recently that are also interested in the things I'm into. Yet to find an ice hockey fan, but that's fine.
Hey, look, we can talk about Mighty Ducks because we're both fans of the Mighty Ducks.
So good.
So good. Emilio Estevez at his best.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes.
Though I haven't seen The Breakfast Club, so.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, fair. So film is a big interest area for you?
Yeah, massively. I'm trying to visit every CEX store in London. And then I'm rating their films. Also rating the environment and like the employees and stuff, like the vibe I get. I'm trying to like collect DVDs and then play them on my projector, and that feels really good. And
wow.
Yeah, you don't always know what you're going to get. Yeah.
DVDs. How old are you? You're 22?
Yeah.
22-year-old and DVDs. I mean, God, I sound so old.
You should see my room. It's like stacks
what is your room
of them.
like?
A lot of Twin Peaks. It's almost like not cool. It's a lot of like Twin Peaks posters and like board games and like Twin Peaks calendars, Twin Peaks picture of Dale Cooper and Sheriff Truman framed next to my bed. A lot of Twin Peaks. I think my room is a very safe space for me because it feels like an extension of who I am in a way, because I like to collect little things that are reflective of all the things I love. And so it's like almost like a fun little trinket museum. I think that's why physical media is very important for me. Like obsolete media, like I have stereos and Walkmans and projectors and iPods, and I like to keep things that I can feel and like know is real and won't just disappear one day, you know?
I've kept iPods, cameras, video cameras, partly because I like to show my children that this is what it used to be like, guys. You know, it used to all be separate. You didn't have these things, this one item that can be a video camera, you know, music thing and a phone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think also with like cycles and everything, everything's always going back. There's something really beautiful about like the imperfection of something that's constantly evolving, and like technology is constantly changing. And I mean, like when you go and get the Shrek DVD and that like menu comes up, nothing else compares. You don't get DVD menus. You don't get menus anymore. It's great.
You don't. Bonus.
Yeah,
you don't.
Director's commentary is great. It's great.
Yes, I love that. Obviously, we've had Carrie, your wonderful, brilliant mother, on here, first guest, and she gave us a brilliant insight into your family, home life. I'd like to hear that from you. What's home like, family, those relationships, having a totally neurospicy family? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we are a very interesting household. I feel like each of us have very different ways of existing, but we make it work, you know? And we're constantly learning more about each other, and I feel like it's always been a space of great growth. I think I reached an age where I was like, wait, I can talk to my parents about stuff. Like, oh, I can come out. They've actually always been pretty accepting. I'm very lucky to have that. But I think because I was, you know, the second you leave the house, the world doesn't look like that. And so I thought, oh, maybe they won't accept me. But I think I'm constantly learning. No, like this is safe. This is a welcoming space.
How are meal times?
Meal times are interesting because I never realized that things are strange until other people are like, oh no, like, no, we don't do that. Like, that's not a thing people do. So like growing up, when we would eat as a family, my parents would be like, no singing at the dinner table. And everywhere I went, like I'd take that with me. Like even if I was at the school canteen, I'd be like, that you can't sing, like we're eating, like the manners, like read the room. And then I think one day I went to a family's friend's house, and one of the parents was like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean no singing at the dinner table? Like that's not a rule anyone has. So I guess that's just my family, because I think because we're always singing in our house, like there's always some kind of noise coming from every direction. So we don't eat as a family anymore, or we don't as much unless there's certain occasions. Because for me personally, I find it quite hard to eat in front of people. I struggle with like noise, and I find it easier to watch something whilst I eat. So I tend to watch TV whilst I eat, which I know maybe people don't agree with, but that's just how I function and flourish.
Do you know what I cannot stand is watching someone on TV eat.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. For the audio listener, I'm covering my mouth in disgust.
Oh. That is a real...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I respect when they don't do that, because also the continuity of that is crazy. Maybe I do respect it, because you have to keep eating. Like, I've definitely done that on set where I've had a bite of a cake and they're like, okay, let's do this another angle. And I end up eating like one bite of 15 pieces of cake, and it's not cute, I'll tell you that.
How did the Hollyoaks role come about?
That was actually an open audition. They were specifically looking to cast someone autistic, and a close family friend sent me a link to like the shout out. And so I went to the audition. I got a call back, and I didn't expect that. They gave me a sheet of the people I'd be meeting at the audition, what a picture of them, where I'd be, a picture of the place, really laid it out for me. All those things that are so helpful, but have never really been done. And I don't think necessarily take up too much time to do.
What did that do for you?
I think being autistic, the uncertainty of certain situations can really not set me up for a great time, because I will be constantly simultaneously not trying to set an expectation just as a person. Let's not go in with crazy expectations or visualize this interaction or plan it out too much, because I don't know what it's going to look like. And if it doesn't look like that, I don't want to freak out.
Yeah.
And so I know, okay, I know when I get there, this is who I'm seeing. And I know what the building looks like. These are things that I don't need to worry about now, because you've given me a description of yourself and your name and your picture. That uncertainty is gone. And even just, I think the gesture of that meant something for me. I think they were really trying to create a space where anyone that auditioned could really do what they needed to do without added stress, or, they were just trying to set us up for a good time.
And how much of your time at Hollyoaks, being autistic, playing an autistic character, how much of that was you?
There are a lot of things about this character that they wanted to get right, and so they went to me for, and they wanted a reference maybe, and they wanted to understand, and they all did training. And I think there were a lot of traits in them that I really related to from an autistic perspective, because it felt very personal to me, some of those stories. And same with like being trans. I think they kind of tried to go along with my journey as I was growing. And that was really good for me, because I was worried that like I didn't come out for a while, because I was like, I don't want to lose my job. And so they really wanted to get it right. And so it just so happens that my character's journey kind of aligns with my journey in many ways, because I was going through kind of very similar things at the time.
You were in that role sort of 6-7 years. It sounds like there was a lot of effort gone to create as supportive and safe an environment as possible that clearly has been a massive part of your journey.
Yeah, I practically grew up there.
Yeah. You read a lot about young people that start acting and they get a big role, and it can go really wrong. And it can be really detrimental. But it sounds like that was really nurturing for you.
Yeah. Growing up with my parents, I was in spaces where I was in front of the public, in the public eye in some ways. So I understood that putting myself out there, I would receive, a mix of responses, especially with something that is so close to who I am. And so I did have to prepare for that. But I think there was effort there put in behind the scenes that helped. And yeah.
Can we talk about gender dysphoria and autism? There have been some studies showing that link, but I wanted to hear from you, your experience or your views on that.
Yeah, I think that there is a big correlation. If my personal research means anything,
which it does,
what I have learned is that there is a big crossover. I think the world is a very black and white place, and as much as being autistic means that we fit into that in some ways, where it's like, no, we're very certain in some ways. There is also that gray area that we're constantly living in, that we've had to kind of try and adapt out of to fit into this or that rather than nothing, because we've been taught that labels exist, and you act like this certain person acts like this way, and this kind of person acts like this. And so I don't think that's not something that is always innate to some autistic people. And a lot of trans autistic people I've met have kind of shared that same sentiment. These things are placed on us, but we know how we feel. And so I think that can apply to a lot of different situations. But when it comes to transness, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for me, feeling so wrong and being autistic, feeling like I couldn't discern where this wrongness, what that was. Because I think there's a big intersection. Growing up, I was like, I feel like an alien. I feel like I'm visiting here, but I'm not entirely aware of these social etiquettes that everyone seemingly has been taught when I was asleep or something. And then being trans, I'm like, oh, but okay. So I feel like I need to overcompensate in the femininity that has been placed on me in order to feel the slightest bit like a woman. And that does not come natural at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not feel right at all. And neither of those things feel right. And so it's like on both sides we're having to mask. And I think that is also why dysphoria can be really, really just big. It can be just so overpowering and so overwhelming. I think it takes a lot of unlearning. It takes a lot of deconstructing things you've been taught and indoctrinated into. I think it takes a lot of reflection and time to assess what feels right and where that comes from, and does this belong to me, and why do I think this? Is that because I've been told this? Because, I mean, I don't know if you have this, but sometimes I spend a while masking and I go home and I don't know how to undo it. And that can be so exhausting and so taxing. And I think it can also apply to gender dysphoria, because I spent so much time in this kind of facade that I even convinced myself, because I thought, well, this is as good as it gets, so I just have to put up with this, rather than being like, no, let's address there's something not right, and it's not been right as long as you've known.
How do you then get to a point where it's wrong enough that you want to do something about it? Tell me about that moment.
I came out as bi when I was like 13, and I was like, okay, so I'm feeling something else, but I'm getting bullied right now, so I don't have time to think about this. I like kind of shelved the trans situation for a while until it got like completely unbearable. I think now that I am more comfortable in who I am, I feel like I'm coming back to the younger me. And I feel like I relate more to that younger person. Like, the point where I got so bad was where I had to figure out, am I going to choose acting or choose my gender, being comfortable with myself? Because I'm scared that if I come out, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared of the world, you know, that I've protected myself from my entire life.
Who did you talk to?
It's funny because I think I told people in many ways that they probably won't either like recollect, or they won't really have processed that that's what I was doing. But I think there have been many times before I came out where I was like, hey guys, what if I just changed my name or something? They were like, well, why did you do that?
Were people surprised?
I don't know. For me, it was different because I came out as non-binary before. For my journey and like myself, that felt more comfortable, of course. But also, I still knew that there was something lying beneath the surface that I couldn't unpick, because I didn't know if other people would understand it. So I didn't want to like shock people. And I was like, what if I, make this a gradual thing? Because
when I told, not that I tell everybody that I'm autistic, but telling some people, they weren't surprised. And so that led me to kind of think, am I the last to know?
Yeah. Sometimes. I really relate to that.
In some ways, that's quite difficult to process of like, hold on, if other people are thinking or seeing the explanation for how my brain works and who I am, and I'm blind to it and I've not seen it, that's kind of weird.
What are those blind spots?
Yeah.
And what are they revealing about you that you've spent so much time trying to like mask, you know?
Because I think I'm doing a pretty good job of like trying to be normal, and I clearly am not.
Yeah. I did see like a study or something. Don't quote me on this. It was something like neurotypical people, there's something where their brain can just register when someone is not neurotypical. And it's not that they necessarily like, this person's autistic or this person's neurodivergent, but they're just like, no.
Just like a radar.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm trying to think. Joe Black, Tourette's, drag comedian, very funny, amazing musician. And I'm pretty sure it was him who said he can spot another Tourette's person across the room. Like they can lock eyes and they know.
Yeah.
And a bit like you're saying about, I made a friend recently. And that person also being autistic, and it's like, boom, you're there, you're in.
Immediately.
And there isn't that need for all the explanation. We didn't have any small talk.
No, what's that? What is that? I don't know what that is.
What is it?
What is small talk and why is it small?
I don't know, because I don't know what it is, because I don't have any time for it.
Love to hear from someone that knows stuff about that.
Yeah.
And is autistic.
Yeah, please tell us
please.
how to do small talk. Tell us the rules.
Yeah.
Let's talk about anxiety.
Okay.
I mean, I'm anxious all the time.
Mm.
And I'm learning to use that. I'm learning to kind of like channel that and harness that. And that keeps me on my toes and I feel alive. And yeah, I feel like my brain's on and working. Do you get anxious?
I do. I used to have terrible anxiety. I used to have really bad panic attacks a lot.
Okay.
That was a very tough time. I know when I'm anxious, but I think that I just at some points was existing with that feeling in my body and normalizing it in a way where it wasn't good for me, but I just didn't think it could get better. But I started doing, for me, what really helped, I do transcendental meditation, and that really helped my anxiety. Like I started when I was like 15. I did all different types and I still had very bad anxiety. But this is like very, very much helped me discern where that feeling is in my body. So when it does arise, I'm like, okay, this is happening. Whereas when I first started TM, after a few weeks, I was like, wait a second. I've been anxious this whole, like, I've just been existing like this. And now I know what it's like to not feel it. It's like, I didn't realize that that's what I was feeling.
Do you feel in your body? Do you feel connected to your body?
Yeah, I really do. I do. In a way where I can't figure out, like, my brain is in an anxious place and my body is in an anxious place. But currently, like speaking like this over the past year or so, I've been able to be like, my body is feeling anxious rather than, or my mind is feeling anxious. Like I can discern and unpick that and like notice that a bit more than I could before. But another thing that really helps when I'm going into social situations, like if it's like a friend's birthday or I'm going to like a gathering, I always give myself permission to leave after half an hour. Before I go out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for half an hour to 45 minutes, show my face, and then I'm going to go home. And I don't want to jinx it, but I usually end up being like one of the last people to leave. I don't know how. That's just what I found. But it always helps for me to give myself permission to go, because I think the more time I spend with myself, the more comfortable I am with myself and the more I enjoy myself and the more I like myself. And so I notice how other people make me feel. And if that's a plus or if that's a minus, if I'm drained or if I'm feeling elated after that, I can pinpoint that way more than I could before because my mind was a mess and I was always like everywhere.
I'm going to be really patronizing for a second, Tylan, and just go, that's amazing that at 22 you can know that, have the awareness of that.
Thank you.
That's really grown up.
Thank you so much. It's taken a while for me, but it's definitely been a journey. I think also just like letting things be lessons rather than internalizing it and then carrying it as if this is life, like this happened to me, so everything is happening to me, rather than I'm going with life and it's kind of like a video game. Like when I leave the house, I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't my most successful interaction. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I could have done that differently. Da, 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 da. Yeah, okay. But I think there's less emphasis on I did this wrong because this person didn't feel me like I was trying to get them to like me. But I do think I'm realizing that it's just as important that I like that person. I often, and maybe it's slightly selfish, and I mean, it can be selfish either way, but sometimes I go into interactions feeling like I am controlling the amount of fun we have. Maybe that's an autistic thing.
I think so.
I'm like, and if someone I've just met, we might not even know each other that well, maybe they're a bit quiet. I'm like, oh, okay, so I need to overcompensate and I need to yap because they're not having fun right now. And that's because it's all on me and it's all on me. And I leave feeling like, that was so bad. And then instead of being like, wait a second, did I even like that person? Like, was I even having a good time? Or was I just worrying about controlling the environment? I don't know.
Sorry, I'm laughing so much because you're just talking the truth and I can relate so much. I mean, socializing is hard.
It's hard. I felt like that was just me as well. Like, yeah.
It's really hard. I really love the permission to go just for half an hour.
It changes the game.
And,
it's a trick.
And then you're there at the end. I think I think that's funny because quite often I don't even go, right? So I just don't go.
Yeah.
Rather than create better conditions for going. So rather than just it being yes or no, and me saying yes meaning, oh my God, I've got to be there for hours. And I've got to be there for the whole thing. And I'm going to have to talk to loads of people.
Yeah.
It's just bringing that back and going, go for a bit.
Yeah.
And have an exit strategy.
You are in control of your night, not other people's, but your amount of fun.
Yeah.
And if you meet people that maybe they don't get you or maybe they think you're weird, that's on them because you're like the main character in your movie. So I like to see it like that. I'm like, okay, if I go out and I'm like, if I don't have a good time, I'm just going to go home because I know that I could have fun there, you know?
Yeah, if you know that you've got somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
And that's safe and that's, you've got those choices.
I think like that kind of aligns with my experience being autistic as well though, because it takes a lot of figuring yourself out, especially I imagine like if you've had a late diagnosis, you're understanding the way you do things. And so you're able to find strategies rather than just being like, this didn't work because whatever.
Rather than just beating myself up.
Yeah.
Because you've got an explanation.
Yeah.
And I have an understanding so I can do something about it.
Yeah.
I've got choices.
It's so helpful when you find out that there's nothing actually wrong with you.
Isn't it just, it's, there
are like ways for us to flourish.
Yeah. Being autistic, how do you know what environments are going to be really good for you and what are not going to be really good for you?
It's a good question. I think sometimes fear and excitement feel the same for me. So I might be nervous to go out, but I'm also excited at the idea of that. Also, like not forcing anything is good. If you're not the type of person that wants to socialize every day, then you're just not that type of person. And that's something that has helped me is to figure out the balance of things, because I think it's super important to like charge yourself. And for me, feeling charged is when I'm at home watching a movie, playing guitar, in nature, or seeing one of my best friends. For me, that's like a charge. And then maybe I'll feel like I can face certain things. Whereas if I feel drained and my tolerance will just be low, and it's probably more likely that I'm gonna be overwhelmed. I could shut down if I'm feeling like I have nothing in me.
How often do you shut down?
I'm quite an introverted person, so sometimes if I keep like doing stuff without a break, everything gets louder and everything gets brighter and everything gets just bigger and scarier for me. So I tend to shut down in those moments where I'm like exhausted. Also, sometimes I don't realize that I'm going to shut down. Like, I can't tell you when I'm going to shut down. I might just be somewhere and I'm like, oh, this, like, it just happens sometimes, you know?
I'm at like once a month now.
That's good. I'd say the same. I'd probably say the same.
And again, I don't know. It's definitely linked to how much have I taken on, how much am I doing, how social, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And therefore my energy levels and tiredness, etc. But I don't know when it's going to happen. Yeah,
it's almost like it's a slow burn and then it just...
My wife's better at recognizing...
Oh, like the signs of...
That's
really good.
It's really good for her. It's not really good for me, but you know, I want to try and recognize or understand the patterns. Like, of course, I want to know how it works, and so I can make it better.
But if you don't have that, the fact that you have someone that can see you, that's really important.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Let's talk about the things you're interested in. Because you said to me, people never ask me about like my special interests. and I'm like, great, well, I'm going to ask you.
I set myself up. Actually, I've set everyone else up, guys. You have another 5 hours. I will be talking about anything for the rest of this podcast.
Give me 3.
Ice hockey has to be the first one. It's funny because I don't feel like liking ice hockey in London is too relatable. And so sometimes that feels really good because I'm like, that's for me. And it's like, yay. But I'm not going to lie, it gets lonely sometimes. You know, you want someone to talk about it to. And so for me, like my older sibling, like they're now into it, which is great. I want to say David Lynch.
What is it about David Lynch that you gravitate towards, do you think?
I think it might be similar to what we were talking about when you see someone across the room and you know they got a touch of the tism, you know. I think he might just. So I think for me that was immediately the first thing. When I heard him talk, I was like, this guy, you can laugh all you want, but his mind is magnificent and he has so much of it because his ideas just are never ending. And so I think he's been such a source of inspiration because I've watched things that I never thought that I would be able to see. Like his eye is just incredible. Like the way he tells stories is incredible. And also just the way he speaks. Like I heard about TM through him talking about it because he has the David Lynch Foundation. And that's another thing when I'm into hyperfixations, it sometimes bleeds into other stuff.
So that's 2. Number 3.
I think the default for me is the Muppets because I've been obsessed with the Muppets since I was 8 years old. And that's never going to end. So I'm not as crazy as I was before. I used to like give away my lunch in primary school, like my packed lunch, I'd give it away. So I used to, during lunch, I used to quiz people. So I would get people to like answer my Muppets quiz. And if they got the answer right, A, B, or C, they would get a bit of my lunch. And I would be full of joy, but hungry. Hungry otherwise, but full because I've I've somehow convinced everyone to take interest in my interest.
Is that important to you that other people are interested in what you're interested in?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's a thing where I want everyone to love what I love. There's more to me than my interest. Like, that doesn't define me as a person. But at the same time, like my bedroom, they can highlight, you know, a little part of me. I think it can represent bits of me and my interests.
They're part of you expressing yourself.
Yeah. So I don't need them to be interested, but it is nice being in an environment where you don't feel like you're speaking too much. Because another thing that is like not spoken about, but I think actually I did see it talked about online recently, was I'm pretty sure it was a neurotypical person. It was just someone, they tweeted, I don't like when I'm talking to someone and they have to relate everything back to them. And I really was like, okay, so I'm going to spiral for the next 3 hours, because that's pretty much the foundation of every conversation I have. Is that's how I relate to people. That's how I understand things. And I never mean it to be to come across as me being disinterested. It's me being like, I get it, you know? That's how conversations work in my brain. But apparently that's not polite. So sometimes I think my interests bleed into conversations, but that's me trying to relate. It's not me trying to take over.
Yeah, or make it about you.
Yeah, no, that's never.
It's, hey, yeah,
it's me
I
trying
agree.
to be like, I understand what you're saying, or you're seen, because this also happened to me, or I also like this.
So earlier you talked about ice hockey, and then I said, oh my God, have you seen the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah.
So I took the conversation off like, oh no, we're not talking about you talking about ice hockey. I'm now talking about what I know about ice hockey.
That fills me with joy.
But we got really excited in that moment.
Yeah.
That was a really excitable us moment.
Yeah.
and like Bella was standing there going, okay.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Okay, you guys just, yeah, okay, whatever.
Those moments are so special to me, because it is that is kind of what I was talking about the relating thing. But then I feel closer to you because you related that to something else that it's all like a thread, you know?
Yeah.
But it always goes back to.
Yeah, and then we could talk about Mighty Ducks too, and we didn't like that as much.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's to me, that's a great way of relating to you. And you going, oh, this kind of weird guy that I'm going to sit down with and chat to now. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Wait, did you say weird guy?
Me.
No. Only in a good way. That's what I say. Weird in a good way. And I've always said that about myself and other weird in a good way people.
What do you like about your brain?
It still feels like I know the person that I was when I was a kid. Like, I've never stopped asking questions or stopped being curious or lost interest in the world around me. Like, I still see beauty everywhere I go. And so that kind of also means that I can kind of find inspiration everywhere. And so even in like conversation with people, I think sometimes I might take something else from that conversation than they did. They might have just seen it as an interaction, but I'm like, I repeat the same sentence that they said in my head for the next 20 minutes. I'm like, I like that. Like, or the way you said that. And I don't know, there's little things like that.
I made a friend recently is what I like. That's going.
I thought you made a friend recently. I was like, yay, we all made a friend recently.
No, but that's what, I don't even know why I'm fixed on that phrase, but just, sometimes the selection of words is, I don't know, I'm just like, oh yeah, I like that phrase. I'm going to take that phrase away.
And I think I'm able to appreciate myself more when I'm around people that get it, because when I'm in spaces that are less adaptable or less understanding or less tolerant, I have to dilute myself. And so that's when it feels like a weakness. But when I'm out of those spaces and when I'm able to kind of reset and like come back to myself, or I'm in spaces like this where feels really open and people get it and it's great and I'm around lovely people, then I feel super good. I feel like I'm able to use my perspective and my differences for the better, and like I'm given the space to do that. And so it's less about what I think is good about myself. It's more, to me, all of it's good. It's what the other people think isn't, you know?
What's the one thing you think young people need to hear about autism?
People are so multifaceted and there are so many different intersections, and no one is ever just one thing. And being autistic can look so so many different ways. There is not just one way to be autistic. It's not like a one size fits all, like 12 signs of the zodiac type of thing. It's very much, you know, there are things that I might find more difficult or I do differently, and that might look different and that might not look like someone else who is autistic, or it might look the same. And so just having that awareness and having that understanding. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like being autistic and the world of neurodivergence has changed so much in like the Gen Z sphere, which I'm still understanding myself because I am 22 and I feel like even like my younger brothers, like their friends and the internet for them, they understand autism differently.
In what way?
I think there's been like a resurgence of ableism in a different way. I think we were making progress, but then in a way, like, because it's more of a conversation, whenever things are spoken about more on a bigger scale and there's more information out there and there's more understanding out there, there's also people that are against. Like, I sometimes I'm on Instagram Reels and there's like a picture, a video, and people like, there's a thing like called acoustic. I don't know if you've seen that. People in the
No.
comments will be like, are they acoustic? And it's meant to be like, are they autistic? And it's like that everyone's saying, are they acoustic? It's just like a trend, I guess. But I personally don't find it funny. I just find it very strange that we're doing that now. Like, I think in some ways, because it's more of a conversation, some people are getting a little too comfortable.
Okay.
Some people being neurotypical people speaking on autistic people and labeling people as acoustic and stuff like that.
That really, like, acoustic has a meaning
Yeah.
of its own.
It's like a...
Like
yeah.
an acoustic guitar.
Acoustic guitar. Like, yeah.
So my brain is going, but that is just wrong because it doesn't...
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
autistic.
That's
There's a word.
autistic person. Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. It's very strange. Yeah, I think we've improved in some ways, but at the same time, it also like, yeah, people are getting a little... I think just knowing the spaces you're in sometimes and actually speaking to autistic people rather than making assumptions is a very good thing to do.
You finished at Hollyoaks?
I have, yeah. I finished in December.
How was that?
That was surreal. It felt very unreal until like, I think the last week. And I also happened to be pretty ill on the last day. Had like a crazy fever. And I think my body was just like, like you're leaving, like purging. Like my body was like going crazy because I don't think I had mentally, it hadn't really caught up with me. And also because the episodes come out like 5 weeks later. So even though I had left in December, people only knew in maybe early February, late January. So that was interesting.
This sort of happens twice, therefore, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So like you leave.
But I can't even say that I've left.
What's the plan now?
So since I have a short film that is coming out called Surprise Baby by Zayn Igbe, and I'm really excited for that. That was great. I have never been in a space where the crew kind of reflect the people on screen. Because sometimes it's like on screen there's representation, but then behind the scenes it's like a bunch of white cis guys. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So like I was working with a trans director, and like that was just amazing. Like I think we've really clicked, and I think the story was pretty personal for him, so we were able to like meet each other on that level, and it felt very special to do and very healing to do, because it was something that just feels very important, especially right now. And it's a story centering around a trans person and a couple who are having a baby shower. However, my character hasn't come out, and they decided that they're going to come out, and they're going to tell their girlfriend that they are trans. Little do they know that the girlfriend's mother has made it a surprise gender reveal. So there's kind of like paradigm of gender messiness going on there, and fighting between, you know, the roles of the whole idea of gender reveals, and that coinciding with their relationship and their understanding of themselves and how that is all going to work out.
Do you find gender confusing as a concept?
Yeah. Gender as a concept is very strange to me.
It's really confusing, isn't it?
And I never had any attachment to that. Well, I guess for me, I did, but it didn't align with what was given to me, obviously. But it was definitely something that I knew I was being taught. You know what I mean? I was very conscious of it, you know?
You were like so wise beyond your years.
Oh my gosh.
Like coming out and saying things like that when you were younger, you even realized that you were being taught like, who are you? These are like, you're so wise. And
oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, but
I unlearned it though. I had to relearn it again.
Okay.
Because I kind of got caught in the, you know, caught in the web.
Do you think about things a lot?
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a little too much sometimes.
Does that get you in trouble?
I get post-hangout anxiety. So in the moment, I will be fine. And I'll be like, oh, I'm doing so well, yapping. And then I go home and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? I try not to think too much though, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's good to just take things at face value sometimes. Because my biggest fear is like becoming insane, to be honest. My biggest fear is thinking too much that I break myself.
Yeah, overthinking can be a dangerous thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a dangerous thing. And will you, after this, when we finish, will you think back over our conversation?
Probably. It would be nice to say no. I probably will though.
I was both really excited to meet you, Tylan. I was also nervous about this episode. I don't have the same experience as you. I'm not the same age as you. But you are wise beyond your years. You have such a healthy, beautiful sense of yourself and self-awareness. I've learned a lot, and I know that people listening and watching are going to learn so much too. And I'm very grateful for that.
I think to an extent I do have a duty in sharing who I am and speaking openly and answering questions, because it might not be that I can answer every question, but it's very easy to say Google is free, but I have a platform and I'm here. And if you ask a question, that opens up an amazing door for discussion and learning. And I think that should always be encouraged rather than shut down.
Oh, you're great.
You're
Tylan,
great.
you're wise and you're insightful. Yeah. just thanks. It's been great to chat to you.
Thank you so much. I've had so much fun. Like, I'm so lucky to be here right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I'm autistic, I think differently. And back in 2015, I wanted people to drink differently. So I created Seedlip, the world's first distilled non-alcoholic spirits. I took Seedlip from my kitchen to 35 countries and the world's best bars, restaurants, and retailers. And we did it in 3.5 years. It was wild. They're delicious. They're intriguing. They're these distilled botanical blends you can just mix with tonic or have in a cocktail. You really don't need another sickly, horrible mocktail. Check us out on seedlipdrinks.com or Amazon and let me know what you think.